Thumper. I'm in your apartment.
It's for the best.
Valley is one long smorgasbord.
Creamy breakdown of body fat. You see, basically, if you're buried right, your skin turns into poison Crisco.
There's roadkill all over Texas. Natural order thing.
It's not happening.
It's happening! Now we gotta change this tire and get out of here, now.
Slow and easy. I'm about to fucking lose my mind!
How are you?
My name's Benny. The sorry-ass bastard you almost hit.
We gotta move, they might find us.
My Jeep and this car, we had an accident. I didn't know that. I need you to help me turn my Jeep up. Well, what do you think all these fucking flares are for, stupid? I need some questions answered, and I need them answered right now. Do you understand me?
How'd you like to do us honor of plugging that whore up?
Oh, you motherfucker, don't tell me what I should do.
Shut up.
What are the chances of a brainless bitch like you know how you did me?
Pretty goddamn good, you backwoods motherfucker.
Hi, this is Hazel Tanksy from Voodoo Massacre, and you are listening to the Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to the Hysteria Continues. And this time we're going back to Texas via California to meet Leatherface and a new family in Nathan's pick of Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 from 1990, or actually from, well, we'll talk a little. There's quite a lot of interesting background around this one because this one was delayed from 1989, wasn't it? Which would have made it an 80s slasher if it wasn't for those pesky kids at the MPAA insisting on loads of cuts to the movie. So I hear. But we'll be covering that a little bit later. But Nathan, I know you're always excited to be covering a TCM movie.
Yes, I love them all. I've had a rocky relationship with a few of them in the series, but overall, I have nothing but love for the TCM series.
Right. So it remains to be seen if this is one of the ones you've had a rocky relationship with. So Erik, are you excited to be back in TCM territory?
Ooh, yes.
Well, we'll see if let's see if we can. We'll see. We're not going to give anything away just yet. But Joseph, let's measure your excitement with how are you doing?
That was Templeton, the rat. He's a rubber rat from the Dollar Tree, a Halloween rat. He's going to be a new character on the show.
Oh, like Poochie.
Ha! I like that sound.
Yes. Well, we haven't had Rosita's the other character. She's asleep. Sleeps most of the day, so she doesn't tend to come and interrupt. But she might make a guest appearance sometime when she finally wakes up. So, okay. Well, before we get on to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, let's have a little chat and see if we've managed to watch anything we want to have a chat about. So, Erik, have you seen anything?
No.
It's going to be a short show.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Right. So an emphatic no from Erik. Joseph, how about you?
No. Well, we've been recording 2 months of content in 1 month, so I haven't really had much time to watch anything.
That is true. Well, let's see if Nathan can save the day.
I did get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game on PS5, and I've been playing it, and I love it.
Is it like the Friday the 13th game?
I mean, your objective is to escape, just like in the Friday the 13th game, but it's got enough differences that make it worthwhile, because it's like 3 killers versus 4 victims.
Can you play one player on it, or does it have to be online?
No, it has to be online.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a shame.
I did like playing the one player on Friday the 13th, but the problem is once you get good enough, even the extra, difficult level is really easy. But it is a lot of fun, I have to say. And so far, I've not had any matches with anybody that's been, like trolling or annoying, because one thing about it is the killer and the victims cannot talk to each other on mic. Like if you play a killer, you can only talk to the killers. And if you play a victim, you can only talk to the victims. And you kind of need to communicate because that's how you escape and warn about, where the family is. And I got a really good jump scare because there was one part where I squeezed through the wall and the cook just happened to be waiting for me on the other side and just slashed me immediately. So that was a good scare.
Well, it sounds like fun. It's only I've just been my fingers burnt with the Friday the 13th game where you get like these sort of toddlers who start taunting you.
Yeah, and I think that them making it to where killers and victims can't talk to each other, there's less taunting because, you can taunt, but it's not like the killers can hear you.
Okay, and how expensive was that, just out of interest?
$40.
Okay.
Actually cheaper than I expected, but Wes was really cool because like I told you guys before the show, like I've been working a lot of overtime lately, and we've been doing like Joseph said, 2 months of shows in 1 month. So it's been a very hectic August. Add that
to the commentaries we've had as well.
Yeah, that too. And I'm not complaining, I love the show. Absolutely. But, it's just been very busy. So overall, I've been working like 20 hours overtime a week, and Wes surprised me on Friday when I got home, and he had gotten me the game, the PS5, and the movie on the newest release of Texas Chainsaw.
Wow.
Jesus Christ, you better be giving him some noggin, boy.
It was pretty awesome, I gotta say.
What, the noggin?
Well, and the TCM stuff.
So you didn't have, he bought you a PS5 as well, so you didn't have one before?
No, I had a PS4.
PS5s my nephew has one. PS5s are huge.
They are quite big, aren't they? I've got one.
Yeah, they are. They're big, but it's okay. It fits in my entertainment center. How do you get something dirty out of that?
Just anything with the word fits in it is just leads to dirtiness.
My bottom is not an entertainment center.
That's not what Wes says.
Blimey, I didn't see the show going this going down quite so quickly, as it were.
Going down.
Yeah. So excellent. Okay, well, enjoy your PS5. The game I don't know if you'd like it or not, but I've been playing Dying Light 2 a lot on PS5.
Can you play one player on that, Justin?
Yeah. So you can sort of play online tournaments, things like that, but I don't. I prefer like one player. The other one I've got, which is I have started it, but I haven't really done anything with it yet because I'm waiting to finish Dying Light 2. Is The Quarry.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about if you'd played it, because I saw it, and it looks like a great slasher game.
Yeah, well, I started playing it, and then I just got a bit frustrated because there's a bit where I think your car breaks down, and you have to wander around woods with a flashlight, picking up some clues, and it seemed to go on forever. And I couldn't really work out where I was going because it's so dark, and you've got this flashlight that illuminates about 2 feet in front of you, and so I just kind of seem to be walking around in circles. So I gave up on it for now, but I will go back to it when I've finished Dying Light 2. But anyway, that's our PS5 update.
One thing I liked about The Quarry is it looks like you can play 2 players.
I don't know, because it was it's the same people who made the other one. Was it Until Midnight or something? The kind of slasher-esque one. So this looks like it may be slasher-esque, but then it looks like it might go off a bit of a tangent, a bit of a supernatural bent. So I don't know. But anyway... but yes, we'll enjoy your PS5, and let's hope we enjoy TCM3. But the only thing I just did last night, we watched. I'm still kind of looking for 90s thrillers, trashy 90s thrillers I hadn't seen, and one that had always been on my radar, but I kind of got put off by its kind of erotic inverted commas reputation, was Colour of Night.
Oh yes,
Bruce Willis and Jane March. I hadn't seen it before, so. We watched it last night, and it is a fucking insane movie, isn't it? It's so incredibly bonkers. And it kind of, I think it almost kind of could qualify as kind of a kind of slashery, giallo influenced thriller.
We could totally pick that for the main show. I will argue that to my grave.
I think, it's what's kind of interesting is it's, well, not interesting, but it's, it feels like it's set up so it would have gone the same way as like Phobia or Schizoid.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it doesn't, does it?
On crack.
Well, yes, but it does in so much that you've got the central premise is you've got Scott Bakula, isn't it? Who's this kind of he has a therapy group of all these kind of very exaggerated kind of stereotypes of kind of people with some kind of mental illness or kind of mania or sort of addiction or whatever. And then Bruce Willis in this incredible opening sequence where his He's completely nuts. He's a psychiatrist or therapist as well, and his one of his patients shows that she's kind of going crazy by covering her teeth in lipstick and then throwing herself out a window very high up in the New York skyline.
And she washes her hair in a bird bath.
Yes, well, it's all but doing that. So Bruce Willis ends up going to Los Angeles to visit his friend Scott Bakula, who introduced him to a therapy group. And in one of the most unlikely kind of plot machinations of any thrillers, that Scott Bakula's character ends up being murdered, kind of slasher murdered in his office, and then Bruce Willis' character ends up taking on his therapy group. I'm not quite sure that's how it works. But it has the easiest to guess sort of twist, I think. Although there is another twist later, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It was just completely crazy. I think it kind of outdoes any other '90s thriller.
It's exceptional trash. I love it.
Yeah. So and it's wall to wall boobs and minge, and you even see Bruce Willis's cock for a second. But yeah. So you fans of that, Eric? Have you seen that one?
Yep, I saw that in the cinema back in 1993, was it? 94-ish? I haven't watched it since, but I did remember really enjoying it and going, oh my god, I must be a complete imbecile because all the critics say this is the stupidest film ever. But of course, over time I've discovered that there are films far stupider than Colour of Night. But yeah, it's one I'd love to revisit because I do remember really enjoying it and thinking that the plot twist at the end was particularly bonkers and straight out of something like Shattered. Must have been something in the water around that time.
Yeah, definitely. And Nathan, have you seen it?
It has been a while, but like you were saying and Joseph was saying, it ended up being a lot more bonkers and crazy than I was thinking when I rented it. And that's what made me really love it. Because I guess I was expecting kind of something a little more typical, and I didn't really get that.
Fair enough. And Joseph, I take it you're a bit of a fan.
Yeah, I love my 90s thrillers, the From Hell films, the erotic thrillers, the neo-noir like Shattered. Color of Night just really takes the cake, just going some completely ridiculous avenues. And that twist at the end, I'm fairly good at guessing these, but back in the day, it actually kind of fooled me. But looking back on it in hindsight, it's so obvious. But yeah, I love this movie. I really think we could cover this on the main show.
There's a 90s thriller that has always eluded me, and since you're on a kick lately, Justin and Joseph, you love them. I was curious if you guys have seen it and if it's worth me checking out. The Temp.
Yes.
I saw that quite recently. Yeah, that's pretty. That is definitely a fun From Hell movie.
I'm curious, and I kind of want to see it because I like Laura Flynn Boyle. So,
yeah, definitely. I saw it a couple of years ago, I think, when we started rewatching these, and so that's when we did the Hand and Rocks to Cradle, which we did on Patreon. It was a Patreon pick, wasn't it? Yes, it was a Patreon pick. And so yeah, there's so many. And we watched. What's the one I watched the other day? Like a really stupid one with Hugh Grant and. It was a medical one with
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman, that was it.
No,
yeah.
I was thinking 9 months.
Extreme Measures.
That's the one. Yeah. So, but I do love it. It's kind of funny thinking back. I was talking to Stuart and sort of saying back in the day when we watched these movies, we didn't think they were ludicrous at all. They didn't come across. Didn't seem to be. Just thought they were. It's not until you rewatch them you realise quite how out there they are, and they really kind of challenged kind of some of the Lupier giallos of the day for some of the kind of more outlandish plot twists and sort of strange plot turns.
It's funny you said that because I used to, when I was younger and watching Italian horror films like giallos and everything, I took every one of them super seriously. Like Eyeball and stuff. Yeah, I thought it was very serious. But as I got older, I realized they're a little more campy, which I love, though. I mean, campy movies are my favorite, so...
Indeed. Well, let's see. Let's see if your pick this week is a campy one. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface from 1990 is coming up. What do we have? Do we have a TV spot or a trailer?
We have a fantastic TV spot for Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Yeah, it's the one that kind of spoofs the Lady in the Water sequence from Excalibur.
Okay, yes, I remember that one.
You'll hear it here, but if you're watching on YouTube, you will see it.
Excellent. Good stuff. So, okay, well, Nathan, bring us back in after this.
Some tales are told, then soon forgotten. But a legend is forever. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, rated R. The most controversial horror film ever starts Friday, January 12th.
A California couple and a survivalist encounter Leatherface and his family. That's the IMDb description. I usually like to read the back of the VHS, but I loved how simplistic this description was on the IMDb.
This is going to be the shortest show in our history, isn't it?
It's basically, it tells you the whole story, right there. So Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, I love it. I mean, I don't think it's a shock to anybody that I'm a big fan of it. I used to find the opening to be very scary, where the woman gets hit with the sledge, and Leatherface is going to use her face, and her sister is watching it, which I think is pretty crazy. I loved the scene with, our final girl of the movie, Michelle, and her boyfriend, Ryan, where they get a flat tire, and there's just a lot of tension around, hearing noises and, like Leatherface, you just know he's around there somewhere. So I think that they did a really good job, building up tension in sequences like that. I love when, they encounter Ken Foray as Benny. I thought his character was great. He, is the survivalist that they mention, or I mentioned in the plot description. But yeah, they all run afoul of Leatherface and his family in this one. And of course, it's a new family. I'm guessing it's extended relatives that after his, relatives died from part 1 and 2, I think he just went off and found some distant relatives to take care of him. So he's got a new family, and this family has a little girl in it, which is kind of morbid because, she's just as vicious and crazy as the rest of them, which I'm like, all right, I see what you're doing there. Like all Texas Chainsaw Massacres, it's got, great stalking, great chase scenes. But unfortunately for Leatherface, it does have the dinner type scene where our heroine is tied up and, kind of forced to watch as they kill her boyfriend in front of her, and they string him up and kill him. Yeah, it's definitely one that I'm a big fan of. I've seen it many, many times. Just love it. Love the characters. Just find it to be very entertaining. It's not my favorite sequel, but it's very high up there. I also love seeing Carolyn Williams as in a cameo. In the trivia, it's Jeff Burr even says he kind of wanted it to be like Stretch, like she, became a reporter after her experience in part 2, which I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fun. Of course, I love the saw. I mean, the whole big chainsaw with the Saw's family engraved on it. I thought that was a lot of fun. But yeah, love the movie. Can't say enough good things about it. So I'm very curious, though, to hear your guys' opinion. And I'm going to start with the one that I'm most curious about, which would be Erik, because you're not a big fan of this series, Erik.
Not a huge fan, no. But you might be surprised to hear I thought this one was okay. I mean, that's as much praise as I can give it. I think it's a huge improvement over part 2. My big problem with part 2 was just it was so loud and shrill and annoying that it felt like an endurance test to watch it. This one, it sort of dials down on that. I mean, there still is the scene of somebody, in this case, nailed to a chair and screaming and chainsaws revving and family arguing. That does test my patience, but it doesn't take up the bulk of the film in this instance. I liked the opening scenes. I thought were, the setup was good. It had a real 80s feel, as Justin said. It's a late 80s movie masquerading as a 90s movie, really. So it has that kind of late 80s look that also, infiltrated into the Nightmare on Elm Street series and Friday the 13th and Halloween. I suppose it's kind of a MPAA enforced lightness to the film, or some would say blandness, but it has that kind of, we're not allowed to really show you any extreme violence, but this is what you've got. But for me, the franchise still has problems with characters like I can't remember the character's name, but Tom Everett plays him. He's the guy with the beard and one sort of Alfredo, that's it.
He's my favorite character.
Is he? He's my least favorite character because
I love him.
He does that thing that there was one character in part 2 that was just such a chatterbox and so annoying and he sort of takes over that role in this. I think he's an excellent actor, but it's just that character just grates on me. I mean, the crazy family subgenre of slasher films isn't usually one for me. There are exceptions, like Hills of Eyes Part 2 I love, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films have never really done it for me. I mean, this one's well made, well acted, apart from possibly, I mean, I don't want to point fingers, but Jennifer Banco as the little girl has some one particularly really bad reading where she's like, no, you can't do that, it's my turn, and it's a real sort of children's play, in the backwoods of America or something, that level of acting. But having said that, I thought the film was okay. I mean, as I said, it when the film focuses on Leatherface, and even when the series as it progresses, the more recent entries which focus solely on Leatherface and ditch the crazy, loud, annoying family, that's when I begin to get on board with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. And I mean, I said before I'll be lynched for this, but I thought the most recent film, the Netflix one, was probably my favorite of the bunch because it was just Leatherface, so it was more like a traditional slasher movie to me. This sort of proto torture porn thing of having the family all stand around while somebody's nailed to a chair and torturing them psychologically, and that it's just not my cup of tea at all. As I said, part 3 is well made. Jeff Burr's done a good job when we consider how late in the day he was brought onto the project, which we probably discuss in background. I personally prefer his Stepfather sequel that came out the year before this, which was much more my cup of tea in that. I love the daylight sections of this. As I said, one of my favorite locations for slashers is rural locations, and I love deserts especially, which is something we just we don't get in Europe really, but I love looking at them in these movies, these vast sort of desolate and they're quite spectacular to look at personally, I think. The good guys in this, I mean, I wouldn't say they're likable, they're not unlikable in any way, but I mean, they're probably slightly bland. Leatherface, I think it's strange that they've called this film Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, which sort of insinuates to me that Leatherface is going to be the central character, or it's going to be about him, it's going to be about his origins, or but he's just kind of the same as he was in the previous 2 films. He's just kind of there as almost a supporting character, so I'm not really sure why they called the film Leatherface. It probably should have just been called Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. But I mean, overall, I mean, possibly if it had all the gore that had initially been intended in it, it might have worked better for me. I'm not 100% sure, but it's certainly the most tolerable of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series that we've covered so far. I think the best ones are still yet to come for me, though, and as I said, I'll be lynched for that. But yeah, so this is kind of a 5 or 6 out of 10 movie for me. So I hope that doesn't offend you, Nathan.
I'm okay with that. Besides, y'all have said way worse about movies that I love. So, Justin.
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that Erik was bullying a child, and we don't stand for that kind of thing on Hysteria Continues. So, but apart from that, the biggest surprise for me watching this was that I don't think I've ever seen it before. So it was all kind of new. It was all kind of new to me. Well, when I say all kind of new to me, I mean it was more of the same, really. I mean, it wasn't anything particularly new, but I don't think I'd seen it before. I had read the William Butler's book, which I should have looked up what the name of it was now. But William Butler plays Ryan in the movie, and he also appeared in Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, the Tom Savini Night of the Living Dead remake, and also Terror Night. And that's very entertaining, really. He does talk about the making of this movie in it. So I didn't know what I was going to get going into it, because I think I've seen then part 4, the one with Matthew McConaughey and what's her name?
Renee Zellweger.
Yes, which I think is kind of campier. So this one was a little bit of a weird mishmash for me, because from what I read was that they wanted to go back to the more solemn, serious tone of the original movie. And I'm not really sure how successful that was, because I was trying to work out, and I think it's just a personal thing, is that I can happily watch a kind of Xerox cookie cutter slasher sequel that provides nothing new whatsoever, as long as it's a Friday the 13th or a Halloween, or another kind of film inspired by the success of those. But with this movie, I think it's kind of if they kind of broke out and did something a little bit more different, because essentially it is more or less a remake of the first movie, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of, you've got the final girl being tied up to the table, lots of screaming, lots of kind of black humor, but the central portion of the film is lots of people running around the wood being chased by Leatherface with a chainsaw, which in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it kind of just felt like not that much thought went into it. It's because for me, I love the first film. It's not a film I can watch very often, but I watch it has a real kind of raw power to it, and I much prefer the sequel part 2 to this movie. I can see where Eric's saying about having that kind of, that kind of is almost like a wasp in a jar. That kind of, it's just kind of constant buzzing, constant, doesn't stop. But for me, it has that kind of frenetic energy that is kind of missing from this movie to some degree. It just feels like it's a rehash of everything that people might expect from a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And didn't really add anything particularly new to it. And as Erik said, Leatherface was kind of really guest starring in his own movie. I'm kind of guessing that the title Leatherface was just added after the fact, by marketing people, because it wasn't really a movie about Leatherface. Having said that, I mean, there's some good things in it. There's some good black humor in it. I kind of think Ken Foray is fantastic in it. And there's some great actors and people. Viggo Mortensen as Tex is great and very easy on the eye, even though he's playing a mad killer. So it went. That
so
wins.
Shallow.
I know, Eric. It's not. I know you're never
I think
shallow.
William Butler was better looking.
Preferences are different, but anyway, the other thing that surprised me actually was I was wondering whether did this film ever get a kind of unrated release? Or is all the kind of everything that's out there now is the kind of the R-rated version?
Well, I watched the unrated cut, which itself seems a little neutered as well. So I don't know if it's ever gotten a proper release, but yeah, there's that.
Because I did think, I'm not being funny, but watching it at high definition, I thought some of the special effects are pretty hokey. I didn't think they were particularly convincing, especially the with William Butler when he's hung upside down. And it's sometimes him, and when it's not him, it's so obvious that it's just kind of it's like a mannequin. A mannequin. I mean, it's so obvious. And then when he gets hit on the head with that mallet or whatever it is, it's not convincing at all. And part of me did think, I wonder actually if they cut back on some of the special effects because they weren't very good.
Well, there is on the deleted scenes on the DVD that I have. It shows the extended version of the mallet hitting his head, and it kind of bounces off it and looks really stupid.
Right. Yeah. Because it's kind of interesting that I can't really see why the MPAA took this film so seriously and were so kind of like, it's just the tone of it is too much for people. It's kind of, I don't think there's anything in here particularly worse than your average 80s slasher movie. I don't think, it certainly doesn't have that kind of raw power of the first movie by any stretch, or that kind of that gonzo filmmaking of the second movie, which genuinely felt more like a fever dream, and with the Tom Savini special effects, in the uncut version, was pretty kind of full on. So this felt quite neutered all round, if I'm honest. So having said that, if you just separate out and look at it as like a slasher movie, a late 80s slasher movie, it's not bad. It's just the TCM series isn't my favorite. So I kind of, it just felt like it's almost like like a slash movie version of The Love Boat or something, where they just kind of get loads of guest stars to turn up to be the family this time, which they do for the next one as well, I think, don't they? Don't they have a new family?
They have a new family in every single movie. Yeah. The continuity in this series is not very good.
It's kind of like a kind of keeping up with the Kardashians. It's like keeping up with Leatherface, isn't it? Just adding extra family members into it. But overall, I mean, I didn't hate it, but it didn't do a great deal for me. I think possibly when you get into some background, we can see quite what the film, was possibly not what was intended. But so I can't give it a glowing recommendation. But I'm glad I've finally seen it. Put it that way.
Awesome, Joseph.
Yeah, I somewhat remember Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 being a staple, like an early 90s staple in my household. I mean, I have these vague memories of my cousin and I quoting the Alfredo character during awkward social situations for whatever reason. And, as I said to Eric, I love his character. He reminds me of Mumbles from Dick Tracy, who was played by Dustin Hoffman, and kind of a cross between that and your typical TCM bad guy. I love his line to Ken Foray in the swamps when Ken Foray's pointing a gun in this direction, and he's like, "Do I know you?" I thought that was funny, but I hadn't seen the movie since the mid-90s, probably 94 or 95, so I was actually looking forward to revisiting it. To start, there's this really interesting thing about TCM3, and it's this sort of backwards domestication of the Sawyer clan, who behave here like Leave It to Beaver cast members on psychoactive drugs. I mean, they remain kind of bloodthirsty cannibals, but they also possess this sort of strange politeness about them that's kind of atypical of this series. And one of the film's funniest gags, to me at least, comes when the invalid mother character tells Leatherface to tend to his school lessons, and we see him learning grammar on this makeshift speak and spell. And it shows this kind of ASCII image of a clown. And each time Leatherface spells out food, Food, and every time the toy tells him it's the wrong word, he gets more and more visibly frustrated like a toddler. I thought that was very funny. Also, like Eric said, Leatherface might be the quieter entry in the series up until this point. I mean, you have the typical screeching of victims amidst roaring sounds of chainsaws, but it's a far cry from the bombastic noise factory that was the finale of the first film and certainly the bulk of the second film. You also have Ken Foray as the survivalist character who's more or less been wandering the area off and on for a few years, ready to do battle and face whatever atrocity Texas can throw his way. But he's so aloof to everything going on around him until push comes to shove that he feels like a satirical take on the Dennis Hopper character from the previous film. Kate Hodge as Michelle and William Butler as Ryan, I mean, they're safe and vanilla as the protagonist couple who stumble upon the Sawyer clan. I mean, inoffensive and likable, if not sharply drawn or well acted, especially, I mean, William Butler has some very sketchy line readings like, "I'm about to fucking lose my mind." And the movie has some fun, having the Kate Hodge character nailed to a chair. And rather than screaming, she seems kind of exasperated at this clan's behavior, kind of like a dinner guest who went to the wrong house. But I found the movie overall to be really disjointed and incoherent. I mean, it definitely feels like a movie that was severely tampered with. Even in the unrated cut, like I said, I mean, side stories like the girl whose sister was killed, and then you have various character moments. They all kind of exist without much context, almost as if important footage was trimmed, or maybe like, something like House of Death where the reels were placed out of order. It also has a kind of a straight-to-cable feel. I mean, it's very flat production value and cinematography. I mean, it's all kind of bland as oatmeal. I mean, it's a far cry from that kind of rawness of the original and that kind of cinematic verve of the second movie. And, like you guys said, the Leatherface character himself feels like an afterthought. I mean, he's mostly a background character to the rest of the Sawyer clan, and he doesn't get to do much except to kind of bookend the movie with brief moments of chainsaw terror. And so, there's not much suspense to the bait and switch with Viggo Mortensen's character of Tex either, because we know right away he's probably up to no good. And so there's no real surprise there when it turns out that's all a trap. And, I kind of imagine Viggo Mortensen looks back on this moment in his career as something of a learning experience, if not much else. I don't know. Ultimately, it feels like a bunch of actors who read the beats off a script and were given no direction to make it work. It's not particularly scary. I mean, the gruesome factor seems muted. And the end sequence with Leatherface chasing Kate Hodge through the swamp, it becomes sort of laughable when she's caught in the worst makeshift trap I've ever seen in a backwoods slasher movie. I mean, this rope kind of ensnares her ankle, and you think it's going to drag her into a tree or up a tree or in the air or something. But no, it just drags her through the forest for a few seconds until she gets to a swamp area. I don't know. I think I'd call this movie severely incomplete. I think that's an apt description. I mean, I certainly didn't hate it, and it has its moments, but I think I understand now why I hadn't seen it since the mid-90s, and I'll probably understand in another 25 years why I chose not to watch it again. It's inoffensive but forgettable. I think that pretty much sums it up for me.
Okay, yeah. Inoffensive, I could see that. But anyway, so yeah, that's the Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm glad you guys watched it and, all that fun stuff.
I did like that the little girl's doll was called Sally.
Yeah, nice little throw. I mean, there's a few nice throwbacks, like at the beginning, he slams the door like Leatherface did in the original. And also the picture scene where, Alfredo, takes the picture. That's like the hitchhiker in the first one.
I did think the opening sequence when they were unearthing all those bodies was particularly nasty. It was
really gooey, yeah.
Gooey, and it made me feel a bit queasy.
Yeah, the Ryan character was talking about how the body kind of, disintegrates into Crisco. And I was looking at that body pit, and then honestly, it's all mud, and it looked like a bunch of mud and like sperm. It was really disgusting.
Yeah, so I was kind of surprised the rest of the film didn't kind of have that intensity of that kind of icky, gooey ickiness. Did anyone, I mean, one thing I was going to ask was that they made obviously a big play about it being Texas, but I've been to California, but I've not been to Texas. Does it look, I mean, I don't know if you guys have been to either or both places, but can you tell it's not shot in Texas?
I've never been.
Well, I mean, I've never been to Texas either, but I mean, there's stretches of places like that in pretty much all areas of America.
I mean, you could find it here.
I imagine. Yeah, I mean, you could even find it in California if you go looking, but I imagine the bulk of Texas then and now is probably a little more upscale and, dare I say, classier than what they show in the movies.
One thing I want to ask Nathan is in the opening text crawl, they kill off Sally Hardesty. How does Nathan feel about that? They say she died in a mental hospital in 1979, I think, or something.
What's crazy about it is she's in the next movie, and she's in your favorite one.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize she was in Next Generation.
She's at the end, a cameo at the end. So I'm like, I mean, to me, I kind of just look at it like Halloween or Friday the 13th. The less I try to pay attention to the timeline and stuff like that, the more I enjoy it. So, because Wes, when we were watching Friday the 13th once, he started asking me all kinds of questions, and I was like, it's best not to ask those questions. I don't know why Jason was a kid in the original, and he was he drowned, and now he's back. I don't know where he was all that time.
So you're admitting you don't know the answers to certain things about Friday the 13th movies?
Oh no,
here we go.
Please no.
No, I'm admitting that the timelines and things can be very confusing.
I see. Yes. Okay. So anyway, well, Alice is dead, but nothing changes there. So you had to start it, didn't you, Nathan?
You started it, Justin.
Well,
kind of. But anyway, well, let's move on to some background, shall we?
The director, Jeff Burr, was fired at the beginning of production. When nobody else accepted the job, he was rehired. Which I'm like, why did they fire him? I thought he did a good job, directing the film. Some other names that were offered the job, John McNaughton, Peter Jackson, Sam Raimi, Tom Savini, Scott Spiegel, Rennie Harlan, and just all of them turned it down. And he also claimed that New Line forbade him from talking to Tobe Hooper, but he didn't know why. And I'm like, I don't understand that either. Why would that be a big deal? Like I said, Carolyn Williams reprises her role from part 2. So, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of part 2, we thought that, Stretch might have went completely insane. But it looks like, she, bounced back to do reporting. So, good for her. The original script was much more brutal with explicit gore. The producers objected to these scenes, which, what is up with these producers thinking that horror fans don't want to see more gore? They obviously don't know horror movies. So I'm like, you need to get out of the horror movie business if you don't know the audience, because I can guarantee you that anybody that rents the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is expecting to see gore. Now, I know the original didn't have gore. Okay, so, I understand that. But I'm just saying at this point, when they're willing to do all the gore, stopping them seems stupid, for lack of a better word.
Well, it was a different time. I mean, now you have the new Netflix Texas Chainsaw film, which was wall-to-wall splatterfest. I mean, certainly mores have changed, for the better.
Especially that bus scene. So, yeah, one of the scenes was going to have a nude man hung upside down and being split down the middle. That could have been pre-Terrifier.
Or Erik Saturday Night.
What happened to you, Nathan, when you got your PS5?
Don't you be a end of a bell. This was the final movie to be given an X by the MPAA before the rating was replaced with NC-17. So there you go. Kane Hodder was a stunt double for Leatherface. So I thought that was kind of fun because, he played Jason Voorhees in a few of the later Jason movies, which is awesome. I met him too. He was really cool. So that was good. The opening scene in which Leatherface creates his new flesh mask is an homage to A Nightmare on Elm Street. Because, in the beginning of Nightmare on Elm Street, he's building his glove. And I guess they could have had Leatherface building a chainsaw, but I think Leatherface just likes to use them. I don't think he necessarily wants to build them. So, that's probably why they didn't do that. The chainsaw in the movie weighed approximately 80 pounds. That's kind of a big, that's kind of a lot to carry. So, yeah, I wouldn't be a good Leatherface, you guys, because I think I'd tire out too quickly. The victims would get away and the family would get mad at me. And I don't like when people are mad at me. Viggo Mortensen played Tex as though he were secretly gay. Did you guys get those kind of vibes from Tex?
Not really, no.
Well, he wears an apron, and I didn't spot this in the film, but I read it afterwards. He paints his nails. So
I wear an apron when I cook.
You're a female.
You are a female.
I am just joking, of course, before I get cancelled.
Oh, no. It's very true. It was a joke. Let's see. What else do I have here? Originally, Benny and Leatherface both succumbed to their injuries at the end of the movie, but New Line wanted to shoot a new ending, so they did it without Jeff Burr. And he was actually really surprised when he saw the movie for the first time because, they scrapped his ending and, the ending was basically the same. It was just they let, more people survive, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of how that went. Another thing was while filming the fight scene between Benny and Tex at the truck, Ken Foray accidentally broke Viggo Mortensen's ribs. The shot was seemingly left in the movie because you can see Mortensen suddenly clutch after being thrown to the ground. So I'm like, I thought that was kind of crazy too. So yeah, wild filming, for this film. That I don't know if that makes sense. Wild filming for this film, but you guys know me. You know what I meant.
We know what you mean.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for understanding. Okay. So, let's see who else has trivia. Justin.
Okay. Well, I'll leave some of the other trivia I'm not saying that Erik and Joseph got Wikipedia open, but I will say there's a couple of things I found, some newspaper articles from the time. One of them was an interview with Miriam Bird Nethery, who plays Mama, when she was based in Tulsa. Now, where is Tulsa? Is that in California?
It's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, okay.
The Sooner State.
Ah, okay. So, well, she told Tulsa World on the 28th of January 1990, there's an interview with her, and she said, talking about making the movie, she said, we entered into it with a great sense of fun, and we wanted to make it as gross as possible. She said that one scene that was cut out was one of her favourite scenes. She said, in one scene, I know which scene it is where she's eating that stuff out of the jar. She said she started choking, and in real life, and then projectile vomited or spat the food across the room and hit the assistant cameraman in the face.
Ew.
But she said she was, it's a bit sad they didn't make the final cut of the film. Well, I'm not quite sure how it would have done, but she said the film was shot in Valencia in California, in an area behind the Magic Mountain amusement park, which is set aside for filmmakers. There was another anecdote she gave. She said, described how they only shot at night, and they had to basically mess her up by putting kind of stuff in her hair. And if you notice the varicose veins on her legs, they painted those on every day. She's actually married to Clu Gallagher, who of course was in Return of the Living Dead amongst The Initiation, amongst a number of other 80s classics. She said that he picked her up from set they shot until 5 a.m. most times, but she got off work early at 2:30 in the morning, and Clu came and picked her up, and they said they broke down in the car on the highway, and people came and helped them. They thought she was an injured little old lady with a voice box and a varicose veins. So the same paper actually gave the film quite a good review. It says it's a well-done horror film that delivers its scares with mood and tension, although it dives a couple of times in areas that repulse rather than frighten. A couple of other quick things. The Betsy Sherman and the Boston Globe said Jeff Burr is fast becoming horror's prime hack. He keeps directing these superfluous sequels, but went on to praise the performances of the people playing the family. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram said that the person who played Leatherface was R.A. Middleoff, who was a classically trained stage actor, but said he makes less of Leatherface than any other prior impersonator, and noted that the film was originally due for release in November 1989, but the MPAA battle sidelined that. As I mentioned before, this would have been like, it's part of the 80s slasher movies, but I'm sure someone else will chime in about the MPAA kind of problems. And the last thing, the thing for newspapers, the Press Democrat said, as the fortunes of this ugly, brutish subgenre ebbing, perhaps Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, may signal demise of the masked or disfigured slasher in the 90s. Obviously didn't have a crystal ball and see what was coming from Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson in 1996. But yeah, there you go. I mean, I'll talk a bit about the MPAA stuff if no one else got that, but I imagine you all might have some more.
Yes, Erik.
Okay, well, I was looking back through an old Fangoria article, not Wikipedia, Justin. Yeah, and it was a diary that David Schau did, I think that's how you pronounce his name, to chronicle his time working on the film, because he was the writer, of course. So he was brought in the autumn of 1988 to pitch an idea for Nightmare on Elm Street 5, which he had called Freddy Rules, but he wasn't accepted his treatment. But he did get a gig on Freddy's Nightmares, writing an episode called Safe Sex, and then from that is when New Line called him back in to do possibly a treatment for Leatherface. So at this stage they had a plot outline and they gave it to him, and apparently it was about a bunch of kids partying in a cemetery. That sounds like Justin and his friends. They apparently see Sally Hardesty lurch past. She's still crazy after 10 years. One of the kids is Sally's long-lost sister, Lisa, and everyone eventually gets dragged into a tunnel maze beneath the graveyard, which makes it sound like it would be very much like part 2 to me, to be honest. Anyway, David Schau eventually did get the gig writing Leatherface. Whilst he was in pre-production, he also ended up playing Freddy's hand in the teaser trailer for Nightmare on Elm Street 5, which is the one with the pram. Principal photography began on July the 17th, 1989. On the second day of filming, the teaser trailer was filmed. It wasn't with R.H. Miluluf, who plays Leatherface. It was a different person playing Leatherface in the trailer. And an alternate idea they had for that teaser was to have the chainsaw in the stone, like the sword in the stone in the old legend. And then you see the hands of Freddy and Jason trying to remove it unsuccessfully. Only Leatherface can remove the chainsaw from the stone, which I think would have been a cool teaser as well, although I do like the one they came up with. What else do I have? Yeah, Gunnar Hansen. Jeff Burr wanted Gunnar Hansen to be cast as Leatherface once again, to reprise his role in this film, but New Line said they're happy to do that, but they'll only pay him scale, so he didn't return to do it. As Justin said, it was supposed to be released in late 1989, November, I think, 1989. Eventually got released on January the 12th, 1990, and completely tanked. It opened at number 11 in the charts, which is in the box office chart, which is incredibly low. And it had a total domestic gross of 5.7 million. But it's opening at number 11 on your first weekend is pretty damning, I would say. And it didn't get a release in the UK. The British Board of Film Classifications refused it, although eventually it did come out in 2004 onto DVD. I have it on DVD, actually, and I think it's probably possibly the first release it got on this side of the pond, although I did see it on a bootleg VHS before this, back in the 80s.
Where did you download your DVD from?
I own the DVD. I can see it from where I'm sitting. It's a silver disc with Leatherface written on it.
Until you minimize your browser window.
I own it. I do. Considering I don't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I own 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, I own just 1, 2, and 3. That's all. I don't own any of the others. Although I will purchase them when we come to cover them, because that's how I roll.
Yeah.
That's all the background I have.
Joseph?
Yeah, just a few things as it pertains to casting. I was watching this and I was amazed at all the spot the actor in different movie scenario things going on here. We mentioned William Butler and, of course, Viggo Mortensen, but Jennifer Banco, who plays the little girl, she was the young Tina in Friday the 13th, Part 7. Tom Everett, who plays Alfredo, he had a very small role in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, as Flashlight Man. He's also in Die Hard 2 as one of the flight crew on Bonnie Bedelia's plane. Kate Hodge got the role opposite Brandon Lee in Rapid Fire because of her role in this film. Tony Hudson, who plays the girl wandering around the forest, she was Denise in Just One of the Guys, the best friend character that Buddy's always leching after. And Joe Unger, who plays Tinker, he was in Nightmare on Elm Street as Sergeant Garcia. And I don't know if any of you guys noticed this, but the cop that pulls over or who waves through Michelle and Ryan at the beginning of the film, did you spot who that was?
No.
Toya.
You're close. It does start with a T-O. That's Michael Seamus Wiles, and he played Tor in Terror at Tenkiller.
Wow.
Oh, see, that's amazing trivia.
Mm-hmm.
I did know, wasn't Tony Hudson also in The Uninvited, the Killer Cat movie?
She might have been. What year was that?
87?
I'm not seeing it here. No, I don't think she was.
Okay.
Yeah, she was. I'm sorry, 87. Yeah, she was.
I'm not sure
plays Rachel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which character she was. But maybe this won't be the shortest show ever, Nathan.
I wonder what our shortest show is.
The Erik Threlfall Appreciation Minute.
Rude.
Thank you. So any other background?
Toya is smelly. No, Susie is smelly. Oh my god.
Oh, Erik.
Do you know that Justin is going to use that as a sound clip now?
I know he is. I didn't know. I meant Susie. I'm just all confused.
I'll extract that audio and send it right over to
You
you,
can't
Justin.
take that back. You can't take that back.
Susie is smelly.
Oh, Erik.
You were talking over me at the same time, so the clip won't work in isolation.
Well, it will. I'll make it work. But anyway.
It will when I get through with it.
Yeah, that's the gift that keeps giving. Thank you, Erik.
I can't believe I did that.
So, okay. Well, let's. What was the consensus on the group on this film?
32 comments for Leatherface. Not bad. Forrest Green writes, I love this movie. I have a soft spot for all those 1989 slashers that were on the covers of Fango back in the day. Shocker, Halloween 5, and this. It's slicker than the previous entries, but I think it has dated well. Fun characters and a dark streak help this one above all later sequels, in my opinion. And Martin Rogers over on YouTube wrote, it's a piece of shit all around, and that metal song over the end credits is terrible to the point of brain death. I'll stick to the first two, just as I will only acknowledge the first 3 Halloween films. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on all that we're doing. Listen on Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and about 1 billion other podcatchers, both good and bad. Join us on Patreon for as little as $1 per month or select a tier that fits your budget. In return, we have nearly 200 exclusive episodes at the ready. That's patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues, all one word. And the same goes for our email address, thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And do write in and let us know what you like or dislike about the show. And if you like it when Erik flubs like that, then do let us know. So, without further ado...
It's my joke of the week. It's so pretty fantastic.
What's the character of Tex in this film? What's his favourite song in Grease? We go together like bobbity bing de bong. We go. You don't know Grease, do you guys?
I don't think I know it enough to get the joke.
I mean, I get the joke, but sorry, Erik.
God, this is the worst episode ever.
I'm just searching very hard for it, Erik. You're missing dignity.
You're off your game today, Erik.
There's your fucking daily bread. Eat it like you did those horse cunts before you became a priest.
Anytime you can work that sound clip in is a good day, Erik.
Well, see, this is unfortunately because Erik is kind of seems to be quiz champion at the moment. We haven't had a proper Inga moment, have we? So this is the closest we've had to it. Yes. So, okay. Well, what are we covering next time on the show?
What's your choice?
Yes, it's Straight Jacket, William Castle's Straight Jacket with Joan Crawford and a big chopper coming to chop off your head. So, looking back at the classic proto-slasher.
I
that
don't
should
want
be fun.
my head chopped off.
Well, you might not if you run away quickly enough, or...
I'm not able to run, I'm too fat.
No, you can duck, maybe.
Sometimes I wish I was a duck.
Do you? Why?
I don't know. Just looks like fun.
What, sort of paddling and eating bread?
Yeah.
I like the bread bit. So, okay, right, well, thank you for listening to The Hysteria Continues, and so we'll be next time with some proto-slasher goodness with Straight Jacket, and we'll catch us over on Patreon. We're just about to do our Fango flashback to issue 27, which is the one with Tom Savini. Is excerpts from Grand Delusions titled Gore and Me. So we found some good stuff in that one. So
I studied really hard for it.
Yes, I know. You were up all night, weren't you? And studying as well.
Justin,
what?
I told you not to be the end of a bell.
So what are we? Well, Nathan, what are we playing out with?
We are playing out with Simply Irresistible, because Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw movies are simply irresistible.
Okay, right.
The Robert Palmer song?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's better than that metal song at the end.
That is true.
Yeah, true.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, guys. Well, we'll catch you next time. So say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
See you later.
Goodbye. Toya smells.
No, Susie smells.
You can't take that one back, Erik, and bye.
Simply irresistible.